We're back here, legends of professional wrestling, right here at your Sousa Community TV, right here in Revere. That's right. I'm the Boston Bad Boy, and we're going to part two. We're going to shoot. We're going to go low. We're going to go high. We're going to go to the side. We're going to hit you in the middle. We're going to hit you in the back of the neck. All the names were changed to protect the innocent. So you're going to have to guess who we're talking about on this shoot interview with Mr. Silvano. Sousa.
How are you?
Back again. You couldn't stay away, could you?
No, it's a beautiful thing coming here. Great show.
And of course, we got great clips this week. Couple, we're not going to go into any picture mode. We're not going to go into a lot of videos or inserts or all these other things we got going on here. We're going to go into the Mac Classics. We're going to keep it sweet. We're going to keep it complete. And we're going to get down and boogie down with some of the big names. How they got there, why they got there, who they got there with, who they hung with, why they hung with them, why they drove with them, why they smoked with them, why they went out and drank after the clubs and went to the clubs afterwards. But now, I want you to focus on this week's Mac Classics from where? Not the Boston Garden. We're going to Providence Civic Center with this camera right here. This is the one, Dave. Can you believe it? This is the one that took all the film right here. All that great footage that you've been seeing on Legends 10 count, the blue color, if you will. And Dave, we want to thank you for coming down one more time right here. And really a pleasure you coming down here and doing all the great things here at Revere TV.
You're the best,
But we got a lot of things to talk about this week. Let's go right to it. Let's go do it with the former Capital Wrestling, WWF, and WWF superstar. Go ahead, Dave. Get it off your chest. Tell a couple of things, a couple of people that we missed out on last time. We can go to the 12th and never with this.
Well, we talked about a lot of things last time here. You know, almost 40 years on the road. It's there's so many stories and so much stuff to tell. You don't know where to begin or where to stop. I mean, there were some great guys. There were some great guys back then. I was very fortunate. Like I said last time when I was here, I started off young, but I got a chance to fall in between the generations of the business, between the Haystack Calhoun, Killer Kowalski, Argentina Rocco, and also into the era of the San Martino era. You know, when I stood there right into the Hogan era, right into the Billy Graham era, Bob Backlund. So I was very lucky to be around all those guys, you know, for all those years. And there's some classics, I'll tell you. They just little things. You know, they were good guys to be around. Unlike the wrestler today, you know, I watch it today. I sit home, I watch it, I look at it, and I say to myself, you know, compared to years ago, they don't have the camaraderie that we had years ago. You know, it's like, I guess it's like everything else. Everything's become commercialized, and that's about the size of it. You know. Let's
do a top 20 of your dislikes and a top 20 of your likes. Tell me about some of the guys that were just jealous, and you know, you're an enhancement star.
There was a lot of, you know.
You're an enhancement star.
I'm one of the few guys. I was very, very lucky that Vince McMahon Sr., who I got to say was one of the greatest guys in the world. You know, his word was bond. If he said something to you, and that's the way it was, that's the way it went. And out of those 388 matches, you know, doing between the two TVs, between Hamburg and, you know, Philadelphia, I mean, I met some real good guys, like I said, and I met some real assholes along the way, to be honest with you. You know, some of the guys that were, I mean, there were more good than bad, I'll say that. So I might as well start with the guys that weren't the greatest guys in the world. Guys like Ivan Putski.
Would that be number 20 or number 1?
I think Ivan Putski would be on the list of number 1 of the bad guys.
Let's change that word from the other word to donkey. Because I wrestled Ivan Putski a couple of times.
Oh, my God.
As Monsoon would say, Gino, he didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch.
I'm going to tell you what he did one time, and I couldn't believe it. Now, here was a guy that was, you know, working all the main events, not only in New England, all over the New York territory, which went all the way from, you know, Washington, D.C., all the way up to Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. And he was staying at a hotel. And while he was at the hotel, he went out. He went to the store, and he went and bought a steak, a big steak. And do you know he had the audacity to come back to the hotel, bad boy, and go in the kitchen and tell the cook in the kitchen, can you fry this steak for me? Now, let me ask you a question. Is that what a class act that is? And I sat back and I watched that stuff. And, you know, back then, like I said, I was younger. I was doing the business. You know, back then you didn't say too much because, you know what? You got a couple of black eyes and a broken nose. That's the way it was back then. That's how they talk to you.
Well, I know a couple of guys on the road that used to travel in the Tanaka and Fuji had their camper. They cooked on their camper, and then you had guys like Nikolai Volkov, even back in the earlier days, Beppo Mongo, and he used to carry that little hot plate right on the back of his bag. He used to have it bungee roped, and that
Oh, yeah.
that was like a second
Strong
pair of underwear.
A lot of guys people don't mention, you know. Kobayashi, Strong Kobayashi. These are names of guys that you know, Kobayashi, I got to put like right around number 7 or 8 of the. He's in my top 10 of the good guys. Let's put it that way. He was a great guy. He came in, you know, for a couple of title shots with San Martino, and but he used to cook in his room with the hot plate, and he was a classic. He was just a good guy. He was a good person. Good to be around. Another guy was Little Tokyo. You know, but there were, like I said, you know, there were the guys like the Putskys too, the guys like Billy White Wolf. Billy White Wolf wouldn't, if you were in the desert on a camel, and he came on the camel with a gallon of water, you know what? You're gonna die in the desert. Because he's not going to give it to you.
A guy like Billy White Wolf, I didn't like him either. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the shooting. We're talking about food. Let's talk about the dirt in wrestling, other bad things that have gone on. Not that I want to pick out the bad things, because you know, professional wrestling, as I know back in the day, was a great thing to be part of, because you couldn't get into the wrestling profession. They're going to call it a business, and if you didn't marry the boss's daughter, or whatever the case may be, but
no, they didn't have schools.
There was no
schools. There was no schools, and the only way that you got into the business, to be honest with you, how they picked the guys is they went to the shows, to the different shows that they were putting on. I mean, I never knew that I was going to become a wrestler. I didn't grow up saying that I wanted to be a wrestler for my career. I mean, but I used to go to this one arena every week, and while I was there, they watched me and watched me and watched me, and like I said, I started, I started the hard way, you know, by sweeping the floors and putting the ring up and carrying the jackets back. I started at the bottom, and you know, unlike today where some guys, you know, walk in the door and they're spoon-fed. It wasn't like that back then, but. You know, you talk about the dirt, you want to talk about dirt. I mean, there were, you know, look, there's been a lot of scandals with the world of professional wrestling. I love wrestling. I love wrestling till the day that I die. I mean, somebody said to me one time, they said, you know what, Sousa, you were born a wrestler and you're going to die the wrestler. And that's the way it is. And you know something? And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that because of the guys that I did meet. Whether I liked them or didn't like them, what they did or didn't do, the bottom line is, if you take the whole thing, 100% of it, there was probably 20% of it that there was a lot of shenanigans and bullshit going on, and I guess if you watch Monday Night Raw, you know, a few weeks back, then Vince McMahon himself said it right on TV when he was doing the interview. He said that he, you know. He was talking to Triple H and Stephanie about not having it given to you, to how it felt to go out there and earn it yourself and get it yourself, and that's what he was talking about. And the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, he said it right there. He said, you know, the U.S. government. He said I beat them, but Uncle Sam was his friend. And then WCW, there was a big thing with the turnover of WCW. I mean. They were this close, you know, to losing everything. Nobody realizes how close it was between both organizations. I mean, one was going to win and one was going to lose. They both weren't going to survive. And but there was a lot of shenanigans going on too. You know, like anything, look, in life. I don't care if it's pro football, basketball, you know, professional hockey. You got the good, the bad, the ugly. You also have a lot of jealousy. You have a lot of hatred between guys. You know, one thing I've always, to be honest with you, this is the first interview that I've ever given to anybody in 45 years around the business.
All right, well, we're gonna go to these thoughts. I want you to think a little bit. We're gonna go to some inserts right now from an old place we used to go to back in the day. The West Roxbury Boys Club. We had
the Boys Club.
There was some
great
shots
matches.
there, and then
Great matches.
I believe we have some starting footage with at the Rosendale Annunciation Hall.
That was another
with,
one.
The Dungeon Master and this Battle Royal. We're going to turn the clock back a little bit, and then we're going to come back and we're gonna hit everybody right in la banza because I'm gonna throw a couple of moves in there too.
Well,
I'm gonna shoot.
I was starting to, but you cut me off
Yeah,
there.
well, I
so
don't want to
got
hear
this.
about who's cooking and working. I want to hear about who's doing like everybody else in the wrestling profession now. They want to know what they were doing. They want to know behind the scenes. Like that guy Meltzer, whatever his name was, with the newsletters. Why did they made all the millions that they made? Because people don't want to know
George
about the matches.
Napolitano
They
and,
want to
Donnie
know
Libo
about what's
and,
going on underneath. There's a friend of mine
They want to hear
used
the
to say,
dirt.
we
They
want to
hear
pull the sheets
they
down
wanna hear
on a
the-
couple
that's
of
it.
people.
Pull the
So
covers back.
when we come
Pull the
back,
covers
we're
back.
going to pull them down. We're going to pull them so far down, they're going to need anklets just to see what's going on. We're going to get some dirty sheets going on. So don't you go away. Legends is coming back. The Shoot, Part 2 with Silvano Sousa.
It was on the other side of the ring. I couldn't quite see. There is so much action.
Tremendous action in that ring now. Mr. Personality has been...
Mr. Personality is our third casualty. And someone else. And Blue Thunder has been eliminated. Kid Car Bomb is our fifth casualty.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you'll notice it. Joe Montana has been dungeonized by the Dungeon Master in the corner.
And Sousa has been eliminated. Silvano Sousa
has been eliminated. Mel, I don't know if you noticed it. Joe Montana in the green tights in the corner in front of us has been dungeonized by the Dungeon Master. He is in a trance.
Mr. Fabulous has left us.
Dungeon Master, as always.
Two wrestlers were just eliminated at the same time. I tell you, the action is so fast and furious. Conley and Raymond gone, and somebody else has been eliminated on the right here. Bull Montana is leaving. It looks like we have two wrestlers left. Dungeon Master and Kingpin are left. And very, very wisely, Kingpin leaves the ring as these two wrestlers will battle it out later. There's still action all around us. Even though the Battle Royal is over, Kingpin and Dungeon Master have outlasted everyone. And these two outstanding wrestling stars will come back a little bit later.
The two remaining participants are the Kingpin and in the ring with me, the Dungeon Master. They will wrestle later this evening.
Looks like they want to wrestle now. They're supposed to wrestle later. Referee Paul Richards coming between them, saying, not now, guys, a little bit later. Once again, the last two participants in our King of the Ring Battle Royal, Kingpin and Dungeon Master. Are, of course, wearing two hats these days, not only as a fine, fine wrestler, and has been for many years, but as a manager. And he attacks the hillbilly from behind. There's the bell. Oh, my goodness, a clothesline right off the bat. Sousa going to work on Hillbilly Tom.
Mel, we just witnessed a tremendous over-the-top rope $5,000 King of the Ring Battle Royal. The final two participants were the Kingpin and the Dungeon Master. They will meet later on this evening for the King of the Ring trophy and that big $5,000 check that goes to the winner of this big Battle Royal.
Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to that. But right in the ring, watch it. Wow, Hillbilly almost got knocked on his head right from the apron of the ring. And there's Eric Sprasia. He has no business being involved in this match, Eric Sprasia. And Hillbilly Tom is thrown out of the ring on the other side where the Russian is stopping him. It's like 3 against 1, Dan.
Hillbilly Tom, a very popular wrestler here in Rosendale, Mel. However, he's going to really have his hands full with former manager and former WWF star Silvano Sousa, a wily ring veteran.
Silvano Sousa now wrestling here in the Northeast Wrestling Federation. And, oh my goodness, he stepped right on his throat. This man has no compassion for anybody or anything. He will win at anybody's expense and do anything he has to do to win.
Mel, he has proven that on occasion so many times.
Oh my goodness. This could be it. It is.
Tremendous neck breaker will be the spell of finish for Hillbilly Tom.
Silvano Sousa absolutely devastating, doing a number on Hillbilly Tom. Silvano Sousa and his entourage of the Mad Russian and Eric Spraja.
3 seconds. Here's your winner of the match, Silvano Sousa.
Well, we had an interview with Sousa a few minutes ago. We're unsuccessful. I'm going to try again, folks. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. Sousa, can we have a word with you? You're an absolutely outstanding wrestler. No one will deny that. Why do you have to have another wrestler at each side of the ring to help you?
It's not a question of having another wrestler at each side of the ring to help me. They're there to watch out for the opponents that I have that do all kinds of illegal tactics. They'll do anything in the book and underhandedly to get me disqualified or lose. It won't happen again.
They do tactics that aren't
right.
You're the one that does the unethical
no
tactics.
way.
This man didn't have a chance against you.
That's
You had
right.
Eric Spraja, you had the Russian. Why can't it be one-on-one against 3 against 1?
It was one-on-one. They didn't interfere. They didn't get involved. They just watched my back.
Eric Spraja threw this man in the ring. The Russian was attacking.
They was helping him back in because he was too slow on the outside.
Why do you two get involved at the match?
No comment. Let's go, guys.
All right, folks, there you heard it. We have no comment, but you saw it. It was not really 1 against 1. It was 3 against 1. And the winner of the match, of course, the dynamic Silvano Sousa.
In the meantime, the whip woman still going at it with the fabulous Rhodes cross ring.
Into the ring goes Kingpin. He ducks under. Ducks under. Wait a minute. No, not enough oomph. Not quite enough energy by Kingpin.
Looks like he went for a flying headbutt, maybe a flying body press.
Wait a minute. What is this?
Looks like a camel clutch, only when the Dungeon Master applies it, it's a Dungeon
This
death
is
clutch.
a submission hold. The referee asking Kingpin if he submits. This might be the end, folks.
It's a
And
Dungeon
Kingpin
death
says
clutch.
no.
Dungeon
What
Master could be on the
punishment.
verge.
Wait a minute. What's
Here comes
going
the
on
Russian
here?
hammer with
he
the
doesn't
chain.
belong in that ring. The Russian hit him from behind. What's going on? The Russian doesn't belong in the ring. A backbreaker. The Russian has a backbreaker on the Kingpin.
Silvano Sousa now with the trophy.
Sousa with the trophy. Looks like Dungeon Master is out. The bell is ringing. I don't know what the finish of this match is. Let's find out. Wait a minute. There's the whip lady all over Sousa. Holy mackerel. Talk about mayhem in the ring. And now the Russian is picking her up. Oh my goodness. And he's got a backbreaker on the whip woman. I've never seen anything so disgusting. Drops the whip woman. Dungeon Master is out cold. The Russian is holding the trophy. Sousa is stomping, literally stomping the Kingpin. What is going on? We're still waiting for a decision. Wait a minute. Here come the bad boys. Here come the bad boys. Chasing the Russian and Sousa out of the ring. Holy mackerel. And it looks like the Dungeon Master is out cold right in front of us. Somebody's yelling, get a doctor. Whip woman is unconscious on the floor. Dungeon Master is unconscious in the ring. Thank goodness for the Boston Bad Boys. We see Rocky Raymond, one of the Boston Bad Boys, in the ring trying to revive the Kingpin. A doctor has been called. Doctor has been called. We hope the paramedics will be here shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never quite witnessed anything like this. The trophy has been busted. I don't know over whose head it was busted. Rocky Raymond helping the Kingpin. Dungeon Master being helped by referee Paul Richards. Whip Lady is still unconscious. The doctor has been paged, and we hope...
Hey, we're back here, Legends of Professional Wrestling. We're going to shoot. We're going to pollute your mind with some things right now. We're not downing the professional wrestling. We're talking about individuals that were not so nice. They were sort of naughty. to get themselves the way they were, or whatever the case may be. Okay? Who wants to start? You want to start? You want me to start? Why don't you start? You're the guest. Go ahead. Get on down.
Well,
Get on
we
somebody.
were talking about different people. I mean, you know, I said about Putski, which wasn't really a big thing, but I thought it was, for a guy that was a main event, making big money back in those days. And, you know, myself as a young guy coming up in the business, looking up at these people, to have them go do something like that, I thought was classless. You know what I mean? He had no class. He just,
Well, maybe
but again, you know what?
you want to leave the tip.
He didn't care. He just didn't care. He just, you know what I mean? You know, he was one of those guys that used everybody, you know, to give him a ride if he needed a ride, if he needed someplace to go, or, you know what I mean? Always looking for something, always looking for a free handout. And you want to know something? I guess that's why he's got what he's got, because he's a multi-millionaire today. He was the first one, Putski, believe it or not, that bred beef and buffalo, which down in Texas, beefalo. And he became a multi-millionaire just by, that was his biggest claim to fame.
Well, I know a guy like Putski, he didn't like new guys coming into the dress rooms, like, say, Jack Witchies will say. Someone come in that was a young guy, and, you know, they'd be scared that their spot, because there wasn't 50, 60 spots like they have today. There was only so many spots on that roster, if you want to even call it a roster. I mean, you look at some of the shows.
There was a 16-man crew. That's what they did in each territory. There was 6 or 7 territories, and they had maybe 16 of an 18-man crew. And you're right, because when I first started, like I had said before, you know, it took 6 months before they started talking to me. I come in the dressing room, and back in them days, they had a code, and if they said that code, then nobody said nothing, and I was like an outcast for 6 months till I finally, you know, proved myself. You know, as they called it, the black and blue fraternity, and also like bringing the jackets in and out of the dress room, realizing that there was one locker room and not 2. You know, in that arena I was talking about, you know, the good guys came out of one side, the bad guys came out of the other. And to carry the jackets back there and not be told not to say nothing, but automatically know not to say it, that's what won my spot in. And you're right about it. You know, one thing I always regret today, and any of the young guys that I trained who were successful, very successful, Scotty Tuhati was one of my students, started with me. He was like 16 years old. And, you know, one thing that I gave the guys that I helped, that they didn't do, like you said, if you became better than them or bigger than, I was always a big guy, so I was the kind of guy, if I went to the gym, if somebody took me to the gym and taught me how to work out and get all, you know what I mean, get jacked up and everything, imagine, I mean, I was big already and I was young, so imagine what I would have probably became, but then I would have took somebody's spot. So you want to know something? It doesn't go that way. You know, there was no, like I said, it was hard enough just to be in the business, to get in the business. There were no schools. Like I said, you couldn't pay your way in. You know, and I see some of the biggest pro football players and other guys come in and try to train and become, you know, pro wrestlers, and they had 2 left feet and 2 right feet. And I mean, they couldn't even walk through the ropes. You know, there were people that were begging to get into the business, you know, that would pay $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to become a wrestler.
Well, there was a lot of those that paid. There was a lot of those guys that came around and paid in.
But that came in after.
You know,
that came
Dusty
in
Rhodes down south. Talk about down south, which is a very, very tight-knit NWA organization, because you had to know someone. If it wasn't the Funks, it was the Briscoes. If it wasn't the Briscoes, it was the Armstrongs. If it wasn't the Armstrongs, you had to know Blackjack Mulligan and the Wyndhams. Then there was so many family-oriented. Then you had Frank Dusek and his brother. Then you had the Lewin brothers. And then you had so on and so forth, the Curtis brother. Names go on and on as far as getting in. But then you had guys like Patricia Patterson, who killed the profession and sitting outside a shower watching these young talent or enhancements and doing the things that they wrote about. And then the guys that were in the ring crew. And then the guys that did this with the referees. And it goes on and on from from down south in Georgia with Tommy Rich with the Crockett's and all those guys that, let me tell you something, in any profession you had your style of people, I'm going to call it a style because it was a style.
The good,
you know?
the bad, and the ugly.
You know, it's like the Red Sox, they got their group called the Boston Bad Boys, and that wasn't exactly an armed, that kind. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, these things that go on, but in every profession, you have that type. In every, whether he's a doctor, whether he's a tennis player, whether he's play with swords or whatever they do, but you guys are in that business of that following. And I was watching on, since I've gotten on to seeing some things on YouTube, and then these shoot interviews with RNF Video, and you guys, this thing with Roddy Piper. I was watching him talk about Pat Patterson and how Pat Patterson was this and was that, and people just put a title on the guy. But on the other side of Pat Patterson, I'm not saying the other side. I'm talking about the side up here. For the business of knowing how to shoot angles and keep people going, and storylines that would keep it going. Like today, there's no storylines today that because there's no talent. You got guys that are on there each and every week on these wrestling shows that are on TV, and they got nowhere to go with these guys because you got 5 or 6 guys where before they had 40 guys to work with, and they had so many storylines and so many stars, and that's why they call them superstars. When they got the name superstars, they brought that in, superstars of wrestling.
You talk about a guy like Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson was one of the main reasons that if it was by right today, I should be working in the office carrying a briefcase or being a road agent on the road. I never hit it off with him. From the time he came in the territory, he came in 1977 with the Intercontinental belt, and by the time he walked in that, actually he started, it was in Allentown when he came in. And I'm going to tell you something, it was like, he was just, I just didn't hit it off with him. And of course, I wasn't his type. I was a big guy, I was young. I was a heavy set guy, you know what I mean? I didn't have any baby face looks, and I wasn't a young, good-looking kid and coming in the business and trying to break in. I was already in the business at that time. I already had like 10 years in the business, and I like to say that I was very, very respected, and I liked Vince McMahon Sr. and Jr. both. I think they're the greatest guys in the world, and I think what they've done with the business is amazing. But getting back to Patterson, what happened was, I just happened to rub him the wrong way, and it was something that was said, and I said something back to him, and I'll be honest, it was, there was a whole bunch of guys standing around, and I approached him, and I said to him, I said, listen, I said, what is it with you? I said, what do you got against me? What's your issue with me? I said, besides being big and ugly and, you know what I mean, not being a babyface type looking person, I mean, what's your other issue with me? And he said, oh, no, Sousa, I don't have any problem with you. He said, on a business level, I don't have any problem with you. Number one is a lie. He did nothing but blackball me to Vince McMahon about all kinds of stuff. And the funny thing is, his best friends are the ones that were the biggest ones that should have been blackballed. But they were all out there in the main events. That's just the way it was, because he was, at that time, he was very close to the bookers. In the 80s, that was a hot time in the business. But so he said, business-wise, I have nothing against you. But then he said to me, on a personal level, you're not the kind of guy that I'd hang around with. And I started laughing. And all the guys were there, and I said, are you kidding me? What do you think? I'd be the kind of guy, you think I want to hang around with you? You know what I mean? I don't want to hang around with him. He's talking about, you're not the kind of guy I'd want to hang around with. Well, you know something? I wouldn't hang around with him either. I got nothing in common with him. But he had the nerve in front of everybody, including very, very high officials in the company. I mean, right up to some of the owners. But I wasn't scared to confront him. I was never scared to confront anybody if I was right. And you know what? For the longest time, he blackballed me. And all of a sudden it was. And you know what? it was a lie. It was all lies, because there was a lot of shit going on back then with different guys, with drugs and overdoses and all kinds of nonsense going on. So it was very easy to blackball somebody. And it was just wrong. So, I mean, I have to say that, you know, the sad part is 388 jobber matches wasn't an easy thing to accomplish. Plus, Vince McMahon, I used to always, you know, take the camera from TV back to the Cape Cod Coliseum, wherever it was going. Anything Vince asked me to do, I did it, and I never asked for a penny. And you know something? And it wasn't to get ahead. I mean, I used to drive from TV to TV with Vince McMahon Jr. driving, the father in the front seat, myself in the back seat, with somebody like George Steele or somebody else. I mean, I was right there. And, you know, to be in that position and then to be blackballed, especially by a guy that, you know, part of my language, like a piece of shit that he was. He was a piece of shit.
You're saying that Pat Patterson was sort of the demise to the end of your career, and being that he put you in the right spots or give you any booking gigs. Well, it goes back to the days of so Buddy Rogers had it bad on Bruno, and Bruno had it bad on him, and then, you know, Buddy Rogers was down in Tennessee. We made a ton of money, and guys like that, the Fargo brothers, and you know, you had one of the Fargos that were really tight with that Tennessee area, Jackie Fargo, which you know, he ended up having his partner Don Fargo. But those guys would tell stories like crazy on the road. I mean, just
but the sad part
real
was
crazy things what they do to the
old time guys. The old time guys. The problem with them is once they heard something, or once something was said, then there was no, like, you couldn't defend yourself. I couldn't defend myself because it was always done behind your back, and it was always done by a certain, you know, half a dozen people. I'll be honest with you, Pat Patterson, you know, he was very, very high up as far as the office goes, as far as the Worldwide Wrestling Federation and the World Wrestling Federation, I mean the WWE. He was very, you know, far up in the chain. And you're right, as far as the business goes, he's a very, very intelligent guy to the business. But you know what? So was I. The sad part, I wasn't even given the chance, but I'm just trying to say that it's an example of how quick you can be talented and everything, and all of a sudden one person says something back then that was an absolute lie. Actually, you know, it was just a lie. You know, it's because I put Pat in his place in front of a lot of people, and he was embarrassed about it, and that was his way to pay me back. So I was blackballed, and that was it.
When I was doing my thing as the Boston Bad Boy with Tony Rumble, Tony Magliero, and I was always blamed. I was always blamed. You know, Tony was the hero, or whatever. You know, first of all, at ICW they gave, you want to call the wrestlers up and bring them to TV and bring the kids from your school? I says, no, I'll bring a couple. You know, I'm not going to go crazy over it. If they don't show up, I don't want any responsibility for it. And you know, then they gave Tony the phone bill because he couldn't pay any bills anyway. He was poor as days long. He didn't have a dime when I met him. He had, you know, we'd go over his house. He used to have the rolls on the table. He was booking numbers for his cousin. He was a nobody. He never became nothing until he met me, and I showed him the works of how I came back from Florida. I had all that knowledge from working the book, doing shows, whatever, the timing, how to do this, that, the whole 9 yards. So he did his other thing. So we got two guys like us, and everyone thought that we were at each other's throat. No. We were always.
It's like anything.
We were always friends, but everyone thought we were enemies. It's like if Patterson was sitting next to you, or say you only touched on three guys. You're talking.
He wouldn't be sitting next.
You're talking three guys. You got Patterson. You talked about Putski, and I don't even know if you got to a third guy. But how are you gonna get to 20? You're burning up. You gotta rip him and strip him here. You guys like Tony.
You gotta have a lot of time. Tony Gurria.
In every book, he raped so many girls when he was there. I'll go on record. I'm trying to assume he's a millionaire anyways.
Listen,
what's he gonna get from me?
How about me? After all those years in the business, I go to the Boston Garden. I'm in the back of the Boston Garden. I'm standing in the alleyway that they have blocked off. That's just like for wrestlers or certain people. It's where the wrestlers come out to go right down to the ramp. You know what I'm talking about, to go in the ring. Tony Gurria opens the door and he says to me, "Hey, Sousa, you got to go behind the curtain." And I said, "What did you say?" He said, "You got to go behind the curtain." I said, "Go behind the curtain?" I said, how many times did you beat me in the middle of the ring? How many matches have we had? And you're telling me, I've been around the business at that time, it was already 30 years, 35 years, you know, about 30 years, 25, 30 years. And you're telling me to go on the other side of the curtain, but then you had other people, you know, for political reasons, were allowed to be back there. And it's funny because I know it bothered him because I went to walk away and he said to me, and he said, Sousa, and I turned around and I know he wanted to say, no, come back and stay here, but there was too many people there. You know what? He was a first-class asshole for doing that to me.
You know, he made a long way. He made a
but you know what? When I was, you know, when I was literally breaking my back and breaking my hip and lumping up my whole body for these guys, you're gonna tell me that I can't walk into the Boston Garden to a show? I mean, come on now, give me a break.
Well, he basically had some longevity and bad stories that go on and on.
Well, I gotta say,
one of the guys like Ricky Sexton. I mean, these guys are just like, you know, old time, Chester the Molester type.
You know what the problem is, Stan?
Weirdos.
Right, but you know what the problem is?
Weirdos.
Going back to those days, even before I started, those were called the days of innocence. Let's be honest, people weren't that smart. Now you have the internet. Now you have everything. People are more educated. They're more smart to what's going on. But back in those days, you know, the 40s and 50s, they didn't have that kind of stuff. So if you were a professional wrestler or a hockey player or anything, if you were in the public eye, then you know what? People took a liking to you, and people.
Well, the only thing about that is you're saying it never happened.
But there's a lot of stuff.
It happened, but they didn't overexpose it like the news every night. They're talking about these. Just to bring up very quickly, a girl gets abducted, gets in there. Now they got 20, 30, 40 cops looking for her in the field. What's this girl doing with this guy that she doesn't feel comfortable with in the first place? What are they doing with these people? End of story.
Not just that. How about the ones that are in the house and supposedly they have the people there 10 years? How can you keep somebody in the house 10 years? What? There's no way you could walk out in 10 years? You expect me to believe that?
It's crazy.
But that's what I'm saying. There's two sides. There's always heads and tails, up and down, black and white. That's the way it is. But you know, I say what I got to say. Anything about Pat Patterson or certain guys in the business that I talk about, it's 100% gospel, and that's the way it is. And I don't care if he likes it, Vince likes it, or anybody likes it. And I'm pretty sure we'll be doing some more shows really talking about some of the stuff.
Let me tell you something about Roddy Piper. He's gone on record on all these things. We talked about Patterson when he was 15, when he was in the California.
Yeah.
He was the America's champion, and Pat Patterson was the United States champion for Roy Shaw. So you got two personalities colliding, and then you get about no, I never did nothing with Pat Patterson. I never did none of that bisexual stuff or all the stuff they talk about. Now, if you talk about one, you can talk about 101, because the WWF, the three letters, they stood for other things. It's WW, and I'm gonna let your mind stay with the F standard for it. It wasn't funky.
But that's not fair.
It wasn't funky. It wasn't funky.
But that's not fair to the guys that were the straight shooters.
Well, that's all right. They went home to their
And there was
wives.
a lot,
There's plenty of them, but there's, for every one guy that was a straight shooter, there was 20 that wasn't. Come on.
Well,
Come on, Mr. Sousa.
Right, but I was there a long time, and like I said, there were the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would never deny that. But
All right, let's cut it down here. Let's get to the part of the program that we call the Mac Classics. And this week, special match coming to you from your part of town, the Providence Civic Center.
That's a great place.
Here's the big one, Providence Civic Center. Oh yeah, we go all over them, coast to coast and border to border with the Mac Classics. We're coming tight with this one. Here's the big one, Bob Backlund, the American Pie, Providence Civic Center. Superstar Billy Graham against Bob Backlund. And look who the announcer is, Cookie. How many people remember Cookie? Oh yeah, he filled in once in a while. No cane in the ring tonight, no chicanery. There's the bell. Superstar Billy Graham, Bob Backlund. This should prove to be an unbelievable Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship match. As you well know, Bob Backlund, the AA U champion from Princeton, Minnesota, and Superstar off the rope with a couple of shoulder tackles. Backlund with a victory roll. Mario Savoli now back in the ring now, and Superstar Billy Graham with a snap mare. And it looks like he's off those ropes again now, and it's Bob Backlund. Shoulder tackle by the Superstar. Big scoop now. Big scoop. What will Backlund do? He falls back now for a 2 count. Unbelievable action. This is the beginning of the feud between Bob Backlund and Superstar Billy Graham. Into a test of strength. Look at the side of the arms on Superstar Billy Graham. As he forces Bob Backlund down to both knees of Superstar Billy Graham, he loved to use the test of strength. Look at the ability and agility of this man, the size, as he crisscrosses the arms of Bob Backlund. This man got more color than a box of crayons. That's right, it's Superstar Billy Graham with the charisma, the ring presence. And Superstar puts a big boot to the midsection of Bob Backlund. He's coming up now from the test of strength. It's the Princeton, Minnesota Superstar, Bob Backlund, against the Arizona Superstar, Billy Graham. They're going into a little crisscross. Bob Backlund comes up with an armbar on Superstar Billy Graham with those colorful tie-dye tights. It's the Superstar now as he's getting his arm wrenched. Irish whip into the corner now. Bob Backlund running in. Oh, nobody home. This could be the way he pinned Bruno for the title with the leg on the ropes. That's the same way he beat Bruno. But the referee won't have it. Victory roll now. Reverse sunset flip. Bob Backlund gets a 2 count, and Superstar comes up with the full Nelson on Bob Backlund, going in for a switch. Back into the full Nelson. It's Bob Backlund. You're going to see a lot of amateur wrestling moves by Bob Backlund, one of the greatest amateur wrestlers of all time. Side headlock on Bob Backlund by Superstar Billy Graham. This action is fast and furious. Backlund now using the tape that was used on him by the Superstar. One of the most favorite moves. He shoots him into the corner now. Bob Backlund and Superstar Billy Graham right here in Providence. Back and forth now into the Superstar bear hug. Look at the size of the arms on Superstar. Unbelievable. As he clamps down on Bob Backlund, putting the pressure on the lower lumbar, the referee Mario Savoli looks on for the timekeeper bell. This is a Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship match here in the Providence Civic Center. Unbelievable. Not too many people got this footage. There was no video cameras back in the day. It was the cam. It was the Rocky Raymond cam taking this footage. 8mm. That's right. Converted over now. As you can see, Bob Backlund cinching up on a bear hug of his own, and Mario Savoli just waiting to ring that bell. Oh, he poked him in the eye now. And a right hand to the jaw. And a scoop slam by Backlund. Going in for the abdominal stretch now, too close to the ropes. He shoots him in again now. Oh, he locked it in this time. Abdominal stretch on the Superstar. Superstar Billy Graham now. Hip toss. Watch out, referee. Almost got caught. Oh, a shoulder tackle by Bob Backlund. And he's shooting him off the ropes again. Another shoulder tackle now. And Superstar all over the place. Oh, he shoots him through that middle rope. Bob Backlund. Oh, into that steel corner post. That's going to be a troublesome move. That's going to cause a problem for Bob Backlund. Back in the ring now, it's Bob Backlund, Superstar Billy Graham. Big, heavy right hand below to the top of the head now. And Bob Backlund looks to be bleeding, lacerated. That steel pole did not help this match at all. And they're going back and forth now. Lefts and rights. What a Donnybrook now. He hit him with that boot to the head. Looks like Backlund's going crazy now. Unbelievable fisticuffs here, back and forth. Someone's going to step in here. Backlund down. Superstar back and forth again. Mario trying to control this mayhem. Yeah, they're ringing the bell. They're going to call this a no contest here. Bob Backlund, bloody mess, and Superstar Billy Graham. They're stopping the match due to the blood on Bob Backlund's face. As you can see, a bloody Bob Backlund, the manager, the Golden Boy, Arnold Skolin. That's right, the Golden Boy, Arnold Skolin with Bob Backlund. And Superstar wants that belt back, but to no avail. Losing that belt to Bob Backlund. Here in Providence, this is number 1. We're going to see 2 and 3, so they're coming right at you momentarily on the Great Mat Classics. And Bob Backlund gives him one for the money. One for the road in the back of the head with a big boot. As Bob Backlund trying to get the crowd behind him with that Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship. And his manager, the Golden Boy, Arnie Skolin. And someone with the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. It's me, it's BBB, the only man that can bring the oldest, the best, the foundation of professional wrestling to Boston. Here he is, the living legend, Bruno. Tell him a couple of words in Italian, Bruno.
Buona a tutti voi cari paesani di qui di Boston, sono tanto contento di trovarmi qui in Boston, vi saluto a tutti e vi ringrazio sempre per tutti gli anni fa che mi avete dato tanto coraggio e supporto qui a Boston.
And remember to watch Empire Pro Wrestling, the best of the best. The living legend's going to be there. The interview's coming. Watch it from 10 to 11 on the Grade 8 with who? The living legend.
Well, thank you, Rocky. Looking forward to it.
The best there is. Bruno Sammartino, be there.
We're back here, Legends of Professional Wrestling, with our shoot interview. We're trying to pry Sousa's brain open to get all the dirt out. And we don't want to, pick on the profession too bad because, we did what we did and it's done. And, we still dick around a little bit and,
the reality is, bad boy, the reality of the whole thing is more than half of these guys are dead and buried and gone anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a question of being scared of saying anything. The question is, like you said, it's the ones that go around that really bash everybody that's worse than them.
They're not all dead. They're not all dead.
Oh, there's plenty
a lot of them
still
are
living.
sitting on top of that pound amount of money that they made, and they're going in with the right people
Well,
at the right time.
how about Pat Patterson? He just bought he got 100. I heard somebody was telling me he just bought $160,000 some type of car, and then he bought like a $60,000 or $80,000 Rolex. You know what? God bless him.
God bless him, and I tell you, he did what he did. We started ripping apart everybody. We didn't get to too many. We got a few minutes left. Let's see if we can pry open this jar a little bit.
You don't hear somebody's
We got
livelihood.
3 so far. I mean, there's so many stories.
Well,
How about Jesse Ventura? He told some stories. Jesse never liked Hogan. No one liked Hogan because Hogan was on top.
Well, the same thing with the Ultimate Warrior. I was walking to Boston Garden one time when I was playing a game of cribbage with Uncle Harry, who of course we all know is Mr. Fuji, and all of a sudden I hear somebody having a full conversation with themselves, in the bathroom. So I said to Uncle Harry, I said, "Who's that?" He said, he started laughing. He said, "Go ahead in there, go see who it is." So I had to make off. I went to the bathroom. I went in the bathroom, and there's the Ultimate Warrior for about 20 minutes, a half hour, God rest his soul, in the bathroom, just talking to himself.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of
mean?
What about Devon Eric? He was sitting there talking to a pumpkin head. He put a spaghetti dinner on the pumpkin. Yeah, because of on too many hallucinogenics. He was writing his own prescriptions for painkillers. All these guys go on and on. The bad stories of bad endings, bad beginnings. And,
There
never could be. All these stories that you could. They should write a book on professional wrestling about all the crazy stuff that went on and the truth. Because no one wants to know about
the real days.
Kofi Kingston against whoever in the ring. They want to know what Kofi Kingston's doing afterward, who he's going with, who's he's doing, what's he done, who's he with. There's so many guys. Hey, another story about Tony Ellis in the swimming pool down in the Crockett area, huh? How do you think he made his money? Down came the tights and out came that tail, and here we go again. There's so many guys and so many stories. I asked Tony Ellis one time, he wrestled for me a couple of years ago. I said, "Tony, where'd you get those pink wrestling boots? What are you doing wearing pink? Where'd you get those from?" This is all these guys. You can see one thing. If someone could say, "Listen, I betted my career," how do you know? Who do you know? I mean, you go in these areas, you don't know. Some people are like this, and some people are like this. I was watching on the internet, Missy Hyatt. She was talking about everyone's the size of their personal parts and everyone she's been with, and Sonny and this one, and this one's a good girl or a bad girl, and she going the whole. They got this whole business so exposed. It's a joke. It's worse than the cartoons that Vince come out with. They got guys that they can't even. None of them. I mean.
But that's what I was trying to say to you. Back in the days when I started going back to. I actually came around in 1967, 68, and started in 71. But you want to know something? The point that I'm trying to say is, why bash people and say this and say that? The only beef I have, like I said, you asked me one time about Pat, about different things. I said, listen, don't hurt somebody's livelihood. I worked hard, 388 jobber matches. That's dedication. Being at every TV every 3 weeks, doing anything they ask to do, put the ring up, sweep the floors, do everything. And in the end, because somebody has to make up a fictitious lie, you know, because they're jealousy, you know, sorry, I'm not 6'2" and eyes are blue.
You know, all these guys, there's so many of them, so many, you know, you can't touch on the territories back in the day and who was there, why they went there, why they left one area.
But there was some good ones.
Went to another area. You got guys like pretty boys like Rick Martel, and you got young guys that, you know, might have been this, might have been that, but how they got there, why they got there, who they got there with. But there's so many. I mean, you need a book this thick just to go over some of the names. That
well, you know, I really believe in the very, very near future that somebody, or maybe it started already, but it's going to be a big surprise, but somebody is going to come out with a book that's going to cover, you know, the last 30 or 40 years of the business. And it's really going to say the truth because they were there, and the stuff can all be documented. The bottom line, as long as you tell the truth will set you free.
Well, I know by being around, I was around from 77 to 93, and I went to Florida, I saw who the good guys were, and I tell you what, guys like Dusty Rhodes, they were known in front of the TV screen as the good guys, but in the locker room, they were the real peas, if you know what I mean. And then guys that, you know, like, any of them got to where they were, why they got there, there was a reason behind it, and how they got there, there's another story. But being down in Florida, I wrestled a guy named Cowboy Ron Bass. He was going to be wrestling Dusty Rhodes at St. Pete. I was on TV. I didn't care. I scooped him up. I gave him an elbow. I got back to the dressing room. Dusty was giving me my pay and told me to get out of here. You just slammed the guy and dropped an elbow on the guy. That's going to be against me in the main event coming up at St. Petersburg. And you got you moving, but you weren't supposed to do that. I was the type of guy that would do what I had to do, and I'd get a couple of moves in, regardless of where I was. Another time I picked up Louis Martinez. Don't pick him up, don't slam him. What did Rocky do? I picked him up, I slammed him. And so on and so forth. I was the last man to wrestle Killer Kowalski before they retired him. He'd say, don't you power slam me, don't you do this, don't you do that. I still got my moves in. Now, you know, Kowalski was a big guy. I picked him up and scooped him. I was, and he'll tell you right here, he's been on many shows, that they had that Rocky Raymond, he watch out for him, he did that. I'd go and do TV, come back and promote my own shows. That's how it became New England Sports Promotions. Then it became Northeastern Wrestling. Then Empire Pro Wrestling. You change it around, because every time you change it, you think it's a new name, and it's a new thing. But now, I don't know what's so new about it, because the wrestling today, it goes up, and it goes down, and it goes up, and it goes down.
There's plenty of stuff to be said, and as far as, you know, like you said, the secrets.
The legacies go on.
You know, people do want to hear about the secrets and what happened back then and who made it and why they made it and this and that.
And the bad luck of the Von Erichs to the good luck of a piece of junk like Michael Hayes, a prejudiced person like him. He's still in the office. He's doing something right. Or someone's doing him, he's doing something going on. Some longevity is there and some isn't. A guy like Patterson's been there, he's still there to some extent, from what I understand.
He is there.
And then you got guys like Gurria who just got let go, and the stories go on, and this one did that.
Well, he bought about
and Jimmy Snuka killed his girlfriend. What about that one when he killed his girlfriend? And Vince covered that up. There's so many stories. If anyone could come up with that book,
how about Tony Gurria?
All the knowledge.
How about Tony Gurria? They let him go, but he owns 3/4 of the property in Connecticut.
Well, that's because he saved his money. He did a little something, then, you know.
He was smart, because he realized it wasn't going to last forever.
Well, we got about 55. We got about a minute left on the show. I want to thank you for coming down again.
My pleasure.
Mr. Silvano Sousa, we touched bases, but we didn't crack open the can yet. part 2 of the shoot didn't shoot, but we're going to see if we can maybe get him down for part 3, and maybe part 3 will set you free.
When that cracks open, I can't believe me, it's going to go all over the place.
I wanted to be like that lion that's in Boston, that they got that capsule. They got all those things inside that lion. They got Man Menino's, they got a letter from him. They got a picture of him. I want you to break open that capsule. And I hope you all enjoyed the Legends this week, and you enjoyed the Night Classic with superstar Billy Graham and Bob Backlund. How do you like it?
Very
right
good.
here
One of the best.
on Legends of Professional Wrestling. Can you believe it? You better believe it. Say a couple words in closing. We're closing.
Listen, everybody, take care, be good, and you know what? Behave yourself.
Too much turkey.